And I think we're live. It's so there's
Hi,
no like official notice. I just click the go live button and like you just have to take StreamYard's word for it that you're live. So
yeah, that's all right.
I always like to do a little small talk and make sure the folks in the chat are like, hey, yeah, you're broadcasting.
Yeah, you sound good on my end. Mine sound all right, everyone?
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess
Yeah,
so.
and I see Joy already said, today's show is bittersweet. No show for 1 month after this. And yeah, this is gonna kick off our monthly live, which is cool. I mean, it'll give us a chance to kind of like backlog a bunch of cool issues and do a
Right.
larger, hopefully more interesting show. But that doesn't stop us from doing like little pop-up lives and then
Yeah.
also just a crap ton of videos as we see fit. But
Yeah.
you know, you never know
No.
when you might see us pop up live.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the content will get a little bit better. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but a little bit more, specific. And then, it's just a lot going on, man. We're finishing up the journal right now and putting that together, and that takes up a ton of our time. And so hopefully, at least through Christmas, we can kind of go off this schedule and just kind of go from there. But as erratic as you are, I'm sure there'll be stuff in between.
Maybe if I read a book that makes me mad or something.
Yeah, exactly. At midnight, James is pissed off, so he goes live.
And then I wake up in the morning, I'm like, what did I do?
I know. I think you text me that next morning. You're like, I think I effed up. I'm like, oh God. Oh shit. That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, today I think, we did our top 5 worst Billy books a couple weeks ago. And folks, we got a lot of people ask us, what books do you recommend? What are your top
mhm,
5? And naturally,
yeah.
that's something we were going to do anyway. But
hmm Just
we,
kind of motivated it a little.
yeah. So today we're going to present you with our top 5. We didn't have, I don't think we had really any overlap this time. So we've got
No,
10 books to discuss.
10 books, which, yeah, and I don't know how you did it, but I had a real hard time distinguishing between best books and books I
Mhm.
like because,
Yeah.
I mean, well, there's one or two on my list that I just love, and I wouldn't necessarily say are the top five best books, but I don't know. So I guess we'll just kind of muddied the waters a little with that, but it is what it is. I guess books that we would recommend, maybe.
Yeah, the vibe I went with was more like my favorite books,
hmm
and not so much like the best or
Right.
the only standards I was using was the ones I like the best.
Right. It's super official around here.
Yeah, yeah,
All right. Well, let's kick it off, man. We got 10 books to cover, so that's not a lot of time.
yes,
So
absolutely. Let's
take
see
take the
here.
take us away.
Yep, top 5 Billy books, and I think and I think a lot of these, like, there were some on yours that I didn't include because you included them, and
Right. Yeah.
um
So
so hopefully a lot of these I'll echo yours as well. But and Lloyd, yes, this is nonfiction only.
yeah.
I let me see here.
Yeah. So yeah, while you're looking at that, James, I was kind of the same way. I did nonfiction. I didn't do any books on the Lincoln County War because that's almost a whole nother genre. I didn't do any
Yeah.
books specific to, like Nolan's book on Tascos is one of my favorite. So I didn't, this is just purely centered on Billy is kind of how I did my pick.
Okay. Book number 1.
Ah, God damn it. We're going to go. All right. We're done. Shortest show ever.
All right. Okay, well, digging
Yep.
into it.
Yep. And we just lost half our audience with that one, but go ahead.
First one. It's one I'm
Uh,
currently rereading right now. Billy the Kid: A Short and Violent Life by Robert Utley. And Utley's just he was the man,
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with this book. It's objective, it's well researched, it's well, cited. It's just stout history.
Absolutely. And that was when I was trying to decide my fifth one. I actually had that one on the list for a little while, and then I swapped it out. So yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. There's almost nothing that I've come across that I disagreed with. He covers all the topics pretty well. Like Nolan's West of Billy the Kid. One of the few faults I have with that book is he kind of skims over a few things that I think deserve more attention. Utley doesn't do that. So, man, absolutely. Definitely one of the top 3 books as far as recommended to people, trusting that they'll get good information. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is just a fantastic book. Stylistically,
Hmm.
it's a little dry. It's a more of a textbook style,
Hmm.
but he's a great writer,
Yeah.
and it's just you really can't go wrong with it. I don't really have much else to say on it. It's
No,
fairly
you're right.
comprehensive, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was the second book I ever got on Billy when I was a teenager, and it's aged very well. It's just still solid. Absolutely. Good choice.
Yeah, just a solid book. I would
Yep.
definitely recommend this for anybody, who's like, let me get introduced to Billy the Kid. What would I read?
Yep.
This would be a great go-to.
Definitely.
Um,
Definitely.
Not much else to say on it other than
Yeah,
just if
it's
you don't have it, add that to your library.
yep, absolutely. One of the top West. Yep. Good
Yeah.
good job.
Number 2,
All right, what else you got? Let's see.
Lincoln County War
Okay.
by Nolan.
Yeah, and this was, like I said, this is one of your picks
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Why is this your go-to?
Well, I think the subtitle is a documentary history,
Hmm.
and it's a fantastic resource for specifically. Oh, you're gonna bring out your like personally
No.
signed first edition.
No, smartass. I was just going to tell everybody that it's the same book, and the one you posted is the second edition, which oddly enough is more rare and more expensive than this one, which is the first edition. I don't really understand that, but I was just going to tell everybody, if you buy one, buy the one that you put up on the screen, because Nolan made a few
Yeah,
corrections in that one as opposed to what's in this one. Uh, but yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and but it covers basically the Lincoln County War, that only that period. So it's not a comprehensive life biography of Billy,
Yeah.
but there's so much source material here, and
Hmm.
it's just a
Hmm.
great go-to for the Lincoln County War that I
Hmm.
really think this should be a part of everybody's bookshelf. It's just a fantastic resource, and stands the test of time.
No, absolutely. And even though it's titled Lincoln County War, if I remember right, the last chapter is called The Midnight Man, and I think it's all about when Garrett kills the kid, and it's pretty detailed. So yeah, even though that's the title, it pretty much covers the entire kid's life, um, in pretty good detail. I mean, honestly, the last 2 years of this kid's life are covered better in this book than they are in your favorite book that we talked about last year, The Endless Ride, or last week. So, no, this is a great book. Again, I didn't include it because I wasn't thinking Lincoln County War specific. But again, if I could only carry 5 books in my collection to research with, this would absolutely be one of those 5. It's great, great,
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
and I did. This is the only Nolan book I included. I did not include West of Billy the Kid.
Hmm.
Great book, but I just it's just never really struck me as strongly as either this one or Utley. If I'm like,
Hmm.
West of Billy the Kid is kind of the same as Utley, so if I have to pick one, I'm gonna go with Utley's
Yeah,
book over.
I'm with you on that one. Same.
Yeah, and I can't even tell you why. It's just how it
I don't.
is.
Yeah, I don't know. Without letting the show derail to that, I've found in my own research, and I think you'll agree that I've found less errors. And not, I don't mean to sound egotistical, like I'm in any position to critique or judge those two guys. I mean, they're phenomenal historians, but we all get things wrong, and I've found more things that Nolan has gotten wrong than I have that Utley has. So that's why I kind of prioritize Utley a little bit. But that's
Joy,
just me.
thanks so much. That means the world. We appreciate that. Excellent. Thank you so much for that. Um, but yeah, I just West of Billy the Kid doesn't really do it for me. And yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
these guys are the giants on whose shoulders we stand, but none of these are scriptures, none of these are infallible,
Right.
holy sacred texts. I think I do contest that Nolan got it wrong when he said that William Antrim was in Pennsylvania for a Supreme Court case. I don't think that's the
Hmm.
same Antrim. I think that's two different William Antrims. and I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure
I
you
think
can
so.
track the other Antrim throughout his years as well. So, you know, these guys made mistakes like anyone else. You know, not the coalition. We don't make mistakes, but like normal people. You know.
Yeah, the average folks.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, you know, I pick this one over West of Billy the Kid any day. But
Yeah, oh no, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and you know, there's a timeline at the end of it also that's amazing. Probably the best one you'll find in any book. So
yeah,
great book.
DB Cooper thinks it's blasphemous to not have West of Billy the Kid in the top 5.
Yeah,
But
well, that's why you don't have your own show, DB. So
ah, we just
sorry,
hacking on
DB.
you.
Yeah, we're just hacking on you.
Next one, Trailing Billy the Kid.
Yes, that was yours. Go ahead, and then I'll tell you why
So
I agree.
so I remember, you know, starting out that Philip Rash was for me like the deep dive researcher, like when I wanted to get past just introductory biographies and wanted to really get in the weeds with a bunch of subjects.
Yeah.
This book is a collection of essays, and all of Rash's books are basically collections of essays that he wrote and articles that he wrote for certain journals. But each essay is about a specific subject or person, and they are just so well, you know, in the weeds of that particular topic that like you really get a good chance of just diving deep into
Absolutely.
you know a certain topic that might interest you. So like if I get an inkling to read up on Henry Brown, or if I get an inkling to you know to get some research on the kid's early days, he's got an essay for that somewhere, and it's a really good essay,
It's
whatever it's going
outstanding.
to be. So this one has some really cool stuff. He's got some cool articles in this one on Billy's origins, and it's just he'll include things that you don't really see a lot of other places, and they'll really send you down some rabbit holes, and you'll end up learning a lot.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I didn't have any of his books, so like I said, like most don't know, he's got 3 books out. That one, and then the Gunsmoke in Lincoln County, and then Warriors of Lincoln County. Most people don't realize that he didn't have any of these published when he was alive. This was put together after he died.
Right.
And the only reason I didn't share Trailing Billy the Kid as well is because I can't honestly prioritize that one over the other 2. The other 2 just focus a little bit more on the Lincoln County War than this one does. This is more the outlaw years time frame.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes.
Probably my favorite, if I had to pick one historian that I would idolize or admire or depend on the most, it would probably be Mr. Rash. He's just amazing. You're right, but it's more of a little bit more of a scholarly deep dive than the other guys. But you're right. There's almost not a topic on the kid's life that you're not going to find him doing an essay over that's included in one of those 3 books. So absolute must have all 3 of them.
And I have Warriors of Lincoln County and Trailing Billy the Kid. I don't have the Gunsmoke one.
Really?
But yeah, I need to get a hold of it. It's just usually you have to buy these used, and they're usually quite pricey. But that's not even the sum total of what he wrote. There are a lot of his articles that aren't in these collections.
Yeah, I've come across a few of them. He's got a whole nother book. I don't have it on just other Old West characters in general. And you're right, there are some Billy articles that are not in those 3. He had a few published in Arizona Highway, if I remember right. I've got a couple of them through those publications. But yeah, damn, he's just a great researcher. I'm trying to think. I think his files are in Santa Fe, maybe, if I remember right. I need to make a trip and go through it because I can only imagine the stuff he's probably got in his archives.
Right. Yeah, but I chose this one over the others because this was the first of his that I got. And like I said, when I wanted to really dive deeper than just introductory biographies, this was there's kind of like a nostalgic attachment to this one. It was my go-to for a long time. DB tipped you for your sick burn earlier. Honeybee says that Nolan has a reader too, and yeah, that's really good. The Billy the Kid reader, really cool. I found myself, you know, I'll be thinking like, what's that one source where so and so says this, or what's that one source that mentions Billy doing this? and I'll find that it's in the reader. So it's like Frederick Nolan's Billy the Kid Reader is a great anthology of sources and little excerpts of, you know, like clippings and early writings and things that like you find handy, you know.
Oh yeah.
So it's definitely a good maybe that's like an honorable mention. It's a good piece to have on your shelf.
Yeah, it is good. He has an article. I used that book when we were placing Wendy Cahill's stone because he wrote an article on it. Or maybe it wasn't his article. I don't remember. It was his article or another person's article. But some of the original research we found that helped us get that in the right spot was from that book. So yeah, I agree. It's a great book. I've got a copy of it, of course, and I love it. It's good.
Yeah. And thanks, Paul. Good to see you here, man. Have a good time at work while we're all sitting around
Yep.
yapping about Billy.
I'm shutting my door so the dogs will stop barking.
So we can
guys.
see Billy.
Yeah,
so we can see Billy over your shoulder.
Yep, as he fades in and out of the screen for some reason that we still can't figure out. Okay, but yeah, no, great book. Again, I don't know how, and this is no bullshit. I don't know how there's so many good books out there, as y'all will see at the end of this, and we didn't overlap any. Kind of odd. But honestly, I thought we'd have 3 or 4 of the same books, and we didn't.
Right.
So, anyways,
I know.
but I love all of them. I mean, any of these 3 so far would have made in my top 5. No argument at all.
So many good books out there that there's really not an excuse to waste time on the bad ones, unless you want to be like us and just yell at the screen a lot.
You get mad and frustrated for reasons that really don't matter, but they still bother us.
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly. All right, what else we got, James?
Next up, now I don't know if this would have made your list, but Billy the Kid, Bandido Simpatico by James Mills, one of the newer comprehensive biographies on Billy. When folks come to me nowadays and they're like, "Hey, I don't know anything about Billy. What's a good book to get me into it?" I usually point them in this direction because essentially, you know, any information that I think you're going to find in Nolan or Utley, you're going to find in this, but I think it's much better, much more well written and presented than those. And I just think Mills makes it extremely accessible. And I remember when I first read this, and I need to go back and reread it, but it was a page turner. Like I wanted to keep reading it. And a lot of times, even the old ones like Utley and Nolan, if I'm doing a reread, it's kind of like homework, and I'm doing it because I know that I want to learn the information and I want to recall these things better. But this one, I just blew through it like it was, you know, just a piece of entertainment, which it is, but it's also a history book. And I think he does a great job. And it's just, I mean, it's 600 pages, man. It's comprehensive introduction to Billy the Kid. Like there's just about everything in here.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. You know, it didn't make my top 5, and you know, for me, I'll say this about the book though that is definitely holds true is James Mills is, in my opinion, is without a doubt the best actual writer that's ever sat down and told this story. And that is what I do love about the book. It reads like a novel, which again is not my personal preference. That's why I didn't put spoiler. I didn't put To Hell on a Fast Horse on the list either, because that reads like a novel as well, and that's just not my thing when it comes to history books. But Mills is a phenomenal writer. Like I said, probably the best in the business, the best that's ever put pen to paper in regards to this topic. I enjoy the book for the reasons because it is so comprehensive and there is so much there that I like seeing a lot of his sources, and you know he cites everything. So for that reason, I like seeing where he gets his information from, because that's led me to some other things and whatnot. So yeah, that's I didn't put it on my top 5, but again, he's a phenomenal writer, and it's definitely a must-have book.
Yeah, and like DB says, I bought the Mills book because I love the idea of getting more of a Hispanic perspective, and he does. Other authors, you know, I don't think there's any Billy biography that doesn't spend time talking a little bit about how Billy was a kind of a cultural bridge between Anglo and I think in this book he refers to it as Hispano.
Right.
But everybody's aware that he was fluent in Spanish, that he
Right.
made his home among the native population, that he was culturally, just flowed right in there. But that is a larger focus in
Hmm.
Mills's book, and he does take a lot more time, emphasizing that fact and looking at that aspect
Right.
of how he kind of blended into the native culture, and that kind of set him apart in terms of acceptance and being
Hmm.
able to hide out and just getting along, where usually it was an Anglo Hispano split,
Hmm.
culturally and
Absolutely.
economically and politically and everything.
Hmm.
So pretty good stuff.
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting, and I did like and appreciate the angle that he took with that. I didn't care for. I think there were a few times where he chose to take the Hispanic perspective over the Anglo, and I thought maybe it wasn't as good of a source or something along those lines. But with the intentions of solely saying it from the Hispanic perspective, I
Right.
kind of
Like with Paco and I and things like
right
that.
stuff like that. But again, I had to kind of when I would see those come across those things, I had to kind of realize I mean, literally, the purpose of the book is to tell it from this perspective. So, yeah, I mean that's just some nitpicking on my end, but man, he's such a good writer. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. The epilogue at the end of it is some of the best Billy writing I've come
Oh yeah.
across.
It's
Absolutely.
good stuff.
Hmm.
I will say, like, I was just reading Utley. I just finished the Brady shooting in Utley. I'm rereading his book, and
Hmm.
he's talking about Wilson getting shot by a stray bullet, and it says it goes through, it passes through his buttocks. And when you read Mills, Mills is like, yeah, he got shot in the ass, and so like, I love the modern approach that Mills does. Like,
Yeah.
he adds he doesn't try to be scientific about it.
Right. No, you're right. It's nice to because that's probably one of the most recent books out. That definitely the verbiage is certainly something we're not used to hearing in most Billy books. So you're right, that was a fresh take that I enjoyed.
Yeah. So that's number five. No,
Hmm.
that's number four.
I was
That's
gonna say you
number
got one
four.
more, don't you? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll move on to number five of my list, which is this: the
Mm-hmm.
capture of Billy the Kid. And
God, I love this book.
yeah, and
Hmm.
you know, whoever put this book together committed the same historical treason that I levied against Melody Groves in my recent critique of her book, and that's using a photo that is not
I
Billy the
know, I
Kid and
know.
has no provenance on the cover. But
Yeah, I
I
know.
think in this book, at least, it says this is an alleged photo. And
You know, yeah.
I think a lot of times when photos like this pop up, people grab at them maybe for a cover of a book or
Mhm.
something to kind of, I don't know, tantalize more or something.
Yeah, and to touch on that real quick before you get into the book, I don't judge him as harshly for using this as I do her because this was a different time. I don't remember the copyright on this book, but late 80s maybe, early 90s. I mean,
True.
the whole Billy the Kid photo, we've all got one media blitz had not occurred and I don't feel like this author had the same intentions or misguided intentions maybe as Melody did using hers. I mean, in
Yeah.
2023 when that book came out, damn, she should have known better. And everybody that's anybody in the Billy the Kid community knows that the big problem we have with the community right now is pushing all these bogus photos without any provenance. So I think
Right.
she should have known better. And I just don't look at this in the same light. Sorry, go ahead.
And didn't this, I could be wrong, but I think this came from Paulita Maxwell's photo collection. It's just an uncredited
Oh,
photo, but I can't remember.
yeah. I don't remember. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. We need to look into that because I mean, just by the eyeball test, it kind of passes the eyeball test. But I
Yeah.
just don't know that
Yeah.
much about it. And it may say so on the cover of the book or the inside of it. I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean, if they came out with provenance on this and had a
Hmm.
good paper trail, I could buy it. I mean, it
Hmm.
definitely, he's definitely got that chin, man.
Yeah, you got the chin, the bushy hair. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
no, it's again another book that I almost put in the top five. Early West brought out like six or eight kid related books And honestly, most of them are not that good. This to me is by
Yeah,
far the best early West book.
yeah,
Yeah, this is a great book. Firsthand
and
accounts of the capture, good stuff.
yeah, and that's the reason I added it is because it's really such a valuable resource. Again, a lot like Trailing Billy the Kid when you want to go deeper into a subject
Hmm. Hmm.
and really get past the intro biography. This is a place to go because it's basically just the separate accounts from everyone who had laid down their recollections about it,
Hmm.
about the capture of Billy the Kid. So you've got all these different perspectives on Stinking Springs and what happened and
Hmm.
the Fort Sumner killing of Tom Folliard, all that stuff.
Hmm.
It's all in here and it's a great
Yeah.
resource. You've got Jim East, um, Seringo, who I think provides the letter from Jim East. You've got
Hmm.
Cal Polk, which I'm not sure if we really believe he was there or not, but it's still pretty funny account.
Yeah.
Um, who else do you have in here? You've got
Isn't Bozeman? Isn't his account in
yep,
there? If
yep.
I'm not
Bozeman's in
mistaken.
here. And I think it does include Garrett's.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah,
a bunch
Garrett's is
of
there.
and mine came with a nice map of Fort Sumner that I've got hanging up on the wall
Yeah,
too. So
same. And and that was what was cool about the early West books is they all came with that folded up watercolor looking map. And then
yeah.
just in general, all the early West books have great maps in them. I mean, even the books that are not very good. Again, like I've got the Henry Brown book. I just got
Yeah.
through looking through, and it's not a good book, but even the maps in that are great. The photos are
Right.
great. The Jesse Evans book is not a bad book.
Not
It's
yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, it's got great photos and maps in them. So that is one of the better parts about that editor or that publishing company at the time was they were very attractive books. I'll say that. But yeah, this is the
The
best one in
most
my opinion.
the most intriguing early West book for me is the Wilson and the Kid one. It's like
Hmm.
it says that Anderson was not Billy Wilson and that he was really this other guy. And it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
I'm not sure they successfully present the case, but they do their best and
yeah.
it's just a curious little book.
Yeah, I've read it probably 4 or 5 times, and I still don't really understand how they make the transition from Anderson to. I think it's Miller. I think is the name, if I remember right. Or maybe I'm
Miller or
just.
Martin.
It's one of the two. It could be Martin.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm confusing, but yeah, I'm the same way. In fact, that was funny story. That was the last of the early West books that I was able to acquire was Wilson the Kid because it's so hard to find and it's so
Yeah.
expensive. And this is terrible, but I actually checked mine out from the library and said I lost it and paid the fee so I could get a copy of it.
You can't say that on live TV, man.
I paid for the fee. I paid the fee. It's all right. Yeah. So
Dan Edwards is like, we've got him. We've
we got
got
him.
him.
Damn it. I mean, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I bought it on eBay. So yeah, it's a great book, man. I'm sorry, this one is. It's by far my favorite uh, book in this collection.
Yeah. Massimo says the photo comes from the James Earl collection. He knew it's not the kid, but he didn't care. That James Earl is actually the editor on this book, so that would make sense why he
That
would
would,
put it on his book.
yeah, that would make
Um,
sense. And I know he was the yeah, he was the owner of the all these books, the early West books. So that makes sense.
yeah, looks like Mel showed up late. Josh, didn't you mention to Mel earlier, like a couple hours ago, that we had a show to do?
We
I
did.
think,
It was actually
yeah,
like 20 minutes before we went live, and I think she even
yeah,
answered me. And I don't know.
yeah. I
She
think she
was,
said what show?
yeah. What
Yeah,
show? Like I guess we're just that irrelevant now that she doesn't even know what
yeah.
we do at 3:30 Central Time.
And
Uh,
I mean, I kind of shared it on Facebook and all the platforms.
I
So
don't even.
I don't know.
I don't know what her problem is.
Just
Actually,
rolling in late.
I've got a guess, but I won't say it. Sorry, Mel. All right, game face. All right, let's
Um,
go.
Natalie says, Bandido is the best book I've read about Billy so far, and I consider the cover the best look-alike portrait, even though many seem to disagree. Yeah, I see a lot of people talking about that cover. Not a fan of it. I always thought it was pretty cool, but
Mhm.
you know, um, but yeah, that
Yeah,
concludes my five.
you're five. Okay.
Yeah. So now we're entering your territory.
All right, and I don't know what order we're going in because these are in no particular order. Because if I had to pick a favorite, we'd never get there. So let's do
Yeah.
it.
All right, first one, Such Man as Billy the Kid.
Yeah, probably. In Even though I said I wasn't picking books specific to the Lincoln County War, this book actually probably focuses more on the Lincoln County War. Um, than Billy the Kid's life in general. But I really, really like the way this was written. And again, I tend to prefer, even though I respect the writing ability, like we talked about with Mills or Mark Lee Garner, I prefer a little bit more of the scholarly approach when doing biographies. The author on this is a really intelligent, I believe he's a lawyer who's a Harvard professor as well, if I recall. So he writes it from a very analytical approach, really dives into the legal aspects and whatnot of the Lincoln County War and what caused it to be what it was. So I enjoyed that. He also is extremely pro Billy, regulator side in the book, which I thought was a very, not to say a fresh take. I feel like most books probably lean more pro regulator Tunstall McSween
Yeah,
side, but he really speaks well of Billy in general, his personality, his characteristics, his mannerisms. He's very favorable of the kid in general. I This was a pretty early book that I bought too. One of Right before this book, I read Don Klein's Alias Billy the Kid that we destroyed in our last show. And as you know, he talks terrible of Billy. And then the very
right.
next book I read after that was this one, and he takes the opposite approach. So maybe that's why it stuck with me so much. But I know a lot of our other, people that watch us and keep up with this have also spoken well of this book. So just all around, I found very little in it that I thought was incorrect. Granted, it's been a few years since I've read it, so I need to go back. So hopefully, I'm not misspeaking about something. But
Right.
yeah, man, I love this book. It's one of my favorites.
Well, actually, I've not read this book and I always wondered why it
hmm
was, subtitled The Lincoln County War Reconsidered.
hmm
Because, like you said, most people tend to favor the regulator side. So I wondered what kind of insight he offered that would kind of paint it as
hmm
reconsidered.
I got an extra copy. I'll mail it to you.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
what you need to do is just go through your library, pull out all the duplicates, and just get a box shipment going.
Mm, we'll think about that. you Sure, maybe we'll see. But yeah, this is damn it, James, you got me distracted now. Yeah, this is a good book, man. It's one of my favorites. I will seriously, I'll send you a copy of it. I've got a nice paperback that I can send you, and I'm anxious for you to read it because I think you'll agree. And again, I've not seen anybody come across this book and not love it, so I'm anxious to get your take on it.
Awesome. Next up, Billy the Kid, A
Mm.
Graphic History.
Man, this book. So the author on this book died a few years back. I heard he was actually working on another one. He passed away, which to me is terrible because this is one of my absolute favorite books. Now, before I say this, I mean the book is not best I remember it. It's pretty historically solid. I mean, you're not going to find any unknown information. It's not going to go down any deep rabbit holes. I mean, it's a very good book to recommend to somebody if they've never read a book on the kid. But the key to this book and what makes it so great is there's so many unbelievable illustrations, just so many great images, maps. Really, and the only fault I have with the book is the cover because you look at the drawing on there and it almost looks like a children's book, which
Right.
not the best illustration. I don't know why he chose to use that one in the book because there's so many other illustrations in the book that are just phenomenal. He does a two-page, as you can see, this is I don't know, this is probably a 10 by 14 book as far as the layout goes. And he does a two-page spread over Fort Sumner and what it looked like, as well as Lincoln. And I mean, it's a, I don't know, it's one of my absolute favorite books. It reads extremely well. It's very easy reading. And again, the pictures are great. He takes and does an overview of the courthouse and gives a 3D angle approach to what the courthouse looked like when Billy was escaping. He does the same thing with Maxwell's house, depicting the route that the kid took, and just a very unique approach to the illustration side of it that we don't see from like Bob Bosbell and some of the
Right.
other guys. So one of my favorite books. Super hard to find. It's out of print now. Um, but man, if you guys can find a copy of it, definitely grab it. I see one every now and then for sale for about $60 on eBay, and it's well worth it.
I've heard the same thing. I don't have it. I've never looked through
hmm
it, but I've heard so many people that I respect say that it's hard to
Right.
find, expensive, but worth it.
It is, dude. It's just, it's so good, man. And really, if I could get, I would love to get a hold of the family and see if they've got like a PDF or something of the illustration that he does of Lincoln in it. Because man, I'm telling you, it's like no other picture I've seen. It's so. This is. I'm not gonna be able to do this justice, but I mean, as you can see, he does a 2-page spread all of Lincoln, and
Man,
like I said, it's kind of small, so I'm not gonna try and screw it up by zooming in, but it's just so
yeah,
damn good. It's so detailed. His artwork is amazing. Yeah, it's one of my all-time favorite books. I love this book.
awesome.
So, yeah. What else we got, man?
Coming up next,
All right.
Billy the Kid's
Oh,
Grave by David Thomas.
you know, David Thomas has got 5 or 6 books out, and I could have honestly put all of them on there. I'm a little biased because I've gotten to, other than his Garrett book, I got to read all of them before they came out. So, um, but the Billy the Kid's Grave book was probably my favorite of his. This one I read recently, and when I say recently, probably 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, 3 or 4 years ago. And so, I mean, I certainly at that point in time had a very firm grasp on Billy the Kid and everything about him and whatnot. And I can say this, and I think Jeremiah agrees with me. This is his favorite Billy the Kid book. There's not a Billy the Kid book that I read from cover to cover that I walked away with feeling like I learned more than I did with this book. His
Wow.
research into, now again, it's obviously exclusive to, I think he picks up maybe from the escape from the courthouse, if I remember right, and he addresses the trip from the courthouse to Fort Sumner, kind of that couple month time period. And then of course the death, and then of course the history of his grave in the cemetery. And if you want to, as well as I do, especially when you get in the brushy groups and you start talking about all the conspiracy stuff,
Yeah.
you see so many people that are like, wow, the grave was washed away and the bodies aren't there. And nobody knows where the cemetery is. And nobody knows where the graveyard is. And it's actually on the other side of the highway. And the flood did this and the flood did that. And, they all picked a random location and met in the middle. And I mean, all this stuff, 99% of it's bullshit. And David lived in Fort Sumner for 3 months when he was writing this book.
Wow.
And just did nothing but absolutely destroy any and not destroy. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way, but he just absolutely annihilated every bit of research there was on the topic, and it's in that book. It is an absolutely amazing book. I can't rave enough about it. It's such a good book for those that don't have it. It will answer every question you have about Billy the Kid's grave, and in my opinion, you will walk away feeling just about 100% confident that he's right where we think he is.
Hmm.
So that's my sell
Well,
on that book, and it's a
yeah,
good
I
book.
mean, it's like that with just about every one of David's books because they're
Right.
all so well
Hmm.
researched and
Right.
cited that they're just packed full. And if you don't agree with him, at
Yeah.
least you know that he's pulling from legitimate sources. And
Yes,
if you think
absolutely.
he's wrong, then it's not going to be based on the fact that he didn't do his homework or that
Yeah.
he didn't
Mhm.
cite or consult the appropriate records. I mean, this
Mhm.
guy's
Mhm.
meticulous, and you learn
Yeah.
something in
Mhm.
every one of his books that you read.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And again, I literally could have put any one of his, 5 or 6 books up here. Yeah, and I don't say argued, but again, me and David are good friends. We talk all the time, and there's times when he would be working on, especially like the Dave Rudaball book he just put out. I worked with him a lot on that one, and I would say, hey, why don't you do this or do that? And he wouldn't do it because it just wasn't ironclad, rock solid. There's zero speculation with him. He's extremely black and white. Whether that's right or wrong, you can usually put it in the bank. If he says it, there's documentation to support it. And
Yeah,
again, there's a few people that'll disagree. I mean, he's caught some flack over the Dave Rudaball head when he put that in the book. But he provides his sources, and I guess if you disagree with him, you disagree with him. But there's no
right.
speculation with him, and that's what I like. But
Yeah,
yeah, this is a absolutely great book, and I think you can get it for probably $10 on Amazon. Really, really cheap and
absolutely.
easy to get.
Yeah.
So, yep, there you go. That's one of my favorites.
All right, we got a couple more for you. Coming up next is
Mhm.
amazing book. Amazing.
I am absolutely stunned that you didn't list this book. In fact, I'm kind
I
of
knew
mad
you
at
were
you.
going to.
Okay.
I knew
I
you.
was gonna say.
Yeah, I just thought we could have more books because I knew this was going to make your list.
Yeah, I mean, God, this is such a good book.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I mean, I almost, if I had to say what is the best Billy the Kid book that we've ever had, it might be this book. If this book was written just a little bit differently to encompass just a little bit more of the kid's life, and again, don't be mistaken, I almost think that maybe they chose to write it to focus on the pursuit, instead of just the kid's life in general, because that maybe was maybe a good marketing ploy. Not ploy, I don't mean that in a bad way, but that was a good way to present the story from a different angle. But had they just included a little bit more of the kid's life, but done it with the research and the in-depth citing, footnoting, all that they did in this book, I mean, it would hands down be the best Billy the Kid book ever written, in my opinion. It's thick. It's a beautiful book. It's an expensive book. I think I paid 75 for mine. But
Mhm.
Roy and Kurt, they sign every one of them. The photos in it are amazing. It's one of the few Billy the Kid books out there. In fact, other than like Bob Bell's Bells, which is illustrations, it might be the only book I can think of right now that does provide color photographs in it. Maybe I'm not thinking of one, but man, it's just a God, it's a good book. I love it. He gives in-depth stuff about White Oaks and Great House Tavern, shows never before seen photos of that. He actually gives the coalition a shout out in it because we gave him one of the photos, I think, for Great House's grave, if I remember right. I think it's in that book. Um, Man, it's just I can't say enough about it. And the best part about it, in my opinion, is Roy will tell you he is meticulous about footnotes and citing his sources. And as everyone that knows how we work, that is the most important thing, in my opinion, when it comes to writing history. And Roy and Kurt do an amazing job of it. Probably a third of the book is nothing but their footnotes and citing their sources and telling where they got the information from. And um, I just can't overstate how important that is.
Yeah. And it's a very, it's a pricey book,
Hmm.
but it's
Oh,
well
you got
worth it.
yours,
And
yeah,
you'll see that I don't like dust jackets, but
yeah.
it's a sizable book. The
Hmm.
pages are not cheap paper. They're like
No, they're
glossy,
not. You're right.
you know, just an amazing book.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The pages are very thick, glossy pages. I mean, anybody that doesn't have it, I'm looking at right now. What are we at? 400 and almost 420 pages. I mean,
Yeah.
beautiful inside cover work. God, it's a beautiful book. It might be one of the prettiest books on my bookshelf.
Yeah.
It's well worth it. And again, I got them to sign both of them. There's photos in here. And again, this is I don't know the copyright dates, but this one's even newer than Mills's book, if I remember right. I think this came out afterwards.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it is. Yeah.
and there's photos in here that I've never seen. There's documents in here that were brand new that have never come to light before. Um, yeah, I think, and I'm just going to say this because I've talked to Roy about it, and he knows that he missed this. The only thing I found in it all is he misquotes Blazer's Mill and Blake's Mill as far as where the kid and his gang went after they left Fort Sumner. Or, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
after they left White Oak. Sorry. Other than that, man, it's just I haven't found anything wrong with it. I love it,
I
man.
feel
It's a
like
great book.
Bandido Simpatico and Chasing Billy the Kid are just two amazing contributions to the whole
Oh yeah,
scene within the past few years.
definitely,
Just,
definitely.
I mean, this book's fantastic.
Yeah, and they're as good as both of them are, 'cause you're right, they are the 2 best books that have probably come out in the last decade. I mean, I guess we have David Thomas's books too, but Chasing Billy and, Mills's book, as good as they both are polar opposite in their approach and their presentation, and, great books, man. But yeah, Chasing Billy, probably if I could only keep one book on the bookshelf, it'd probably be Chasing Billy,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know. I can't think about it. It makes my head hurt.
And last
There
but
we
not least,
go.
look at
Last but
this.
least, this
Billy
is
the
where
Kid quiz number 2 by Alan Barker.
this is where when we were talking about, I had a hard time picking what's my favorite book and what are the best books, because I don't want anybody that's out there like that. He didn't put whatever in his top five and he puts this. I'm not saying that this is one of the top five best books ever written on Billy the Kid, but it is one of the most unique. So anybody that's watched this show before knows that I'm partial to Alan Barker, grassroots historian. Actually knew Frank and George Coe. Grew up in Lincoln County in the 30s. Lived to be, I think, 116, no, 106, and he died in
Wow.
2016. Yeah, very old guy. I'm still in contact with his kids right now. I just talked to him yesterday, and they're in their 80s. So guy goes way back. He wrote Billy the Kid Quiz 1, which is really hard to find, Quiz 2, which is this one, and then he wrote what I think is the best novel on Billy, which is The Kid with Fast Hands.
Mm.
Um, I picked this one, honestly. It's the thicker of the two. It's a little bit more accessible, but the format of it is basically he asks a question. What was Billy the Kid's real name? And then he gives you multiple choice, and then he gives you on the next page. He'll give you the answer, and then there's a 2 or 3 page reasoning behind the answer. And again, some of the questions get very detailed and are not necessarily novice questions. So the formatting of it is extremely unique. It's just a really, really entertaining, good book. There's good maps. His son's a really good artist. He draws all the maps in it. Yeah, it's a good book. And did you get that picture that I sent you at the last minute? There's
I
a reason
did
why I'm
once.
partial to this book, as you will all see.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm actually coming back from Fort Sumner. I bought this book, and I opened the page, and bam, there's your boy right there. So like I said, I'd corresponded with Alan Barker a lot as a kid, and I'd send him a picture of me at the grave, and he surprised me by throwing that photo in the book, and didn't tell me about it until I actually got the book in hand. And so I think I was 14 there, and that's probably the last time I wore cowboy boots. Not that I have anything against cowboy boots. See, if that was a color photo, you'd see they were snake skin, and maybe that's why I have a fear of snakes now, is because of those boots. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, so um, yeah, that's for sentimental reasons. That's one of my favorite books. And again, I thought if we brought it up, it might spark some interest, because they are. I mean, there's probably, I'd have to look, maybe 25, 30 questions in there. And again, each one has 3 to 5 to maybe. There's a question on Dan Diedrich and his family there, and he does a good little bio on the Diedrich family, and it's included in there. Photos, never before seen photos that he took personally, because he lived in and around New Mexico for years until he moved to California. So that's a good book. You can find it fairly easily on eBay or Amazon. 14, $15. It's obviously out of print, but there's still quite a bit of copies circulating. So if anybody has not looked at those, try and pick them up, man, because they're really, really, really good, fun to read. You can read it in a couple hours, but just something different. There's no quiz books out there on Billy, and this will definitely give you your fix for that. And I think of that includes my five. I honestly could have done about 20 more. I've got like 400 honorable mentions behind me, but we'll save that for another category, maybe.
Right.
Uh, yeah. I don't know,
Yeah.
man.
Well,
Hopefully,
we made it through 10 books.
yeah. Hopefully, this kind of helped everybody. I don't know if maybe there's a few there that some haven't seen, or maybe that motivates some to go out and buy them. A lot of them are on Kindle. I've kind of, like you and Jeremiah have kind of motivated me. I buy a lot of my stuff on Kindle now, once I get the hardback, because it's just so easy to do the research. Some of these are not. Most of these that I put on my list are not available on Kindle, but I know quite a few of the
Yeah.
ones that you listed are. So it's just good stuff, man. As you can tell, I like books.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so
Uh,
much, Honeybee. We appreciate that. Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you.
It means a
Appreciate
lot.
you.
Yeah, so I think, we're about 10 minutes out, but unless there's anything you want to talk about, man, I think we covered a good amount of books here.
Yeah, I think this is good. I think that covers it on the books. Again, we've got, let's see, what is today? This is September 1st. We've got we're marking a historic site this month, the end of September. Again, I'm going to hold on to that a little bit longer. Sorry, guys. After it's all said and done, we'll get into why we kind of kept this to ourselves. But it's big. I'm really, really freaking excited about it. It's been in the works for a lot of years. Um, so yeah, so we'll announce that pretty quick. In fact, we'll probably do a live show sometime before we do our next Sunday show. We'll do another live show and talk about it. So
Yeah,
be on the lookout for that. Sorry, I'm thinking of DB's question. You got an honorable mention, James? While we're
man,
sitting here,
I do. Just a book that I think everybody should own. It's more of a source document, but mine would have to be the Dudley Court of Inquiry. It's just
yeah,
invaluable.
yeah.
Tons of it's all firsthand accounts, of the 5 days battle. So
I wish we could put that on a Kindle. That would be
yeah,
so handy.
we need to
Yeah,
talk to Donna about that.
yeah, that would be great. Mine, Stalking Billy the Kid is one that I was going to mention, and really I
Wow.
picked this one because most people don't know about it. I mean, it's not real popular. It's comprised of a bunch of firsthand account stories. I put it similar to like they knew Billy the Kid. Sorry, I was looking back to see if I had it available. It's just a bunch of, or like the Billy the Kid Reader. It's just a bunch of firsthand accounts and small articles about Billy. Um, some are pretty good. There's a couple in here that give some pretty interesting information. I'm not saying it's amazing, but it's a very good read. I've read it 2 or 3 times. It's kind of one of those books when we're talking about Nolan's book where you're like, where the hell did I read that from, or where's that at? I usually go back to this book because it's in this. So, Stalking Billy the Kid, Brief Sketches of a Short Life. So yeah, that's one of my favorite little books
Wow.
that I have on Billy. Pretty easy to find. You can probably get it for $10. I would definitely recommend getting that if you get a chance. Uh, yeah, that's the first one that came to my mind. But yeah, I don't know, man. Can you think of anything else? Like I say, we're working on the journal now. That takes up a lot of time. I had a couple people ask about the Poe book. That was not pretty much. The writing was done on my part. I've had to go back and correct a few sources and rewrite a few things in regards to that, just because new information comes to light and whatnot. So touching that up a little bit, and because that got backed into the journal time frame, I've kind of set that to the side just a little bit because I want to prioritize the journal. As you know, it's going to be huge this year. I mean, we're over 100 pages, so I'm trying to get that out. So yeah, between those two things, the big monument that we're marking here this month, lots of stuff, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to quit talking before I end up saying stuff that I'm not supposed to say about other stuff that we've got going. I'm telling everybody, we've got, James, we've got so much stuff. I mean, we did a timeline of projects and announcements and discoveries and all that, and literally it's like every 2 to 3 months we've got something big coming up. We've said this every year. This is our 4th year. How long have we been doing the show now? The show's going on a year now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a year with the show. 4 going on 5 years with the coalition. So every year we get more and more, and man, this next 2024 is going to be even better. So much cool stuff that I can't wait to tell everybody about. Good deal. I don't know.
All
I'm
right,
done
guys.
rambling.
Well, unless anything else pops up, we will see you on the first Sunday of October
Sure.
for
First Sunday
this
of
live show.
October, and again, I promise we'll touch base before then with our big
Oh yeah.
announcement. So cool. Then we got Daily DOS. I'll do some more Billy the Kid country shorts, and
Yep.
you'll continue to spread your hate and discontent over
That's right.
poorly written literature.
All right. Take
Cool.
care,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Thanks for tuning in. You guys have a good one.